What's up, y'all? We are good to go tonight. As long as this internet holds up here in the hotel, we should be good to go. I'm in Hoover, Alabama. Last night, weren't able to get things going, and I found out what was wrong. I had my there's apparently this little switch right up here. There's a switch up here where you can actually turn off your camera lens, which is great if you're a conspiracy theorist like me and you think that the government is watching you every second of the day through your camera lens. There's a switch up there that can now shut your camera off, and I had no idea that was a thing, and I couldn't get the camera turned on. I felt like I was 95 years old trying to work a camera. So we should be good to go today. I am in Hoover, Alabama. SEC Media Days is over in Mountain Brook, and had the first day of SEC Media Days today. Men's basketball. It was wild, man. This is my first media days in men's basketball, or basketball in general. I've been to several football media days. This is my first one in basketball, and you're essentially fitting every single team in one day when it comes to basketball. With football, you have 3 or 4 days. You have 16 teams going today. It was wild. You had the SEC network crew in the back that were yapping the whole time in the middle of a press conference. There was no like stop to film the press conference and everybody watched on TV. It was like the press conference and SEC network going on at the same time. It was an absolute disaster as far as that's concerned. But I thought otherwise really good. We talked to Chris Jans, Josh Hubbard, and Cam Matthews. I have some stories up on the site you guys can go look at. MaroonandWhiteDaily.com. By the way, a 50% off deal right now if you aren't a subscriber. I encourage you to be a subscriber because our subscribers knew beforehand that Jamarion Davis Fleming from Canton was committing to Mississippi State basketball today. Also expecting some good news for a women's basketball recruit, top 40 player. If you are a fan of women's basketball recruiting or men's basketball recruiting, there is no other place that you need to be than maroonandwhitedaily.com. And a 50% off deal for an annual subscription is there for you right now if you go join today. And let me make sure I have the correct promo code for you. Join50 is our promo code. If you go sign up right now, you will get a year subscription for 50% off. And telling you that is 100% worth it with what you're about to get in basketball coverage, what you're getting in football recruiting coverage, team news. The message board to me is worth the price of admission just to get on there and have conversations with other Mississippi State fans, people that are well informed. These posters have inside information just like Paul Jones and myself. We have the best message board in the business, so come check us out. That's my spiel on that. I'll probably give it again here at the end. For those that weren't able to get it. But I think that it would be well worth the price of admission for you to go sign up for that. And this is the time to jump on it with a 50% off deal. So, like I said, had Cam Matthews, Josh Hubbard, Chris Jans today over at the Grand Bohemian Hotel in Mountain Brook. And the message from those three was just excitement. What's coming for Mississippi State basketball this year, what they have on the way, and just how excited they are for this season because it's going to be a different team. This is not going to be the Chris Jans team that you've been used to seeing the first 2 years. Now, I still think that they're going to be a good defensive team. This probably might not be his best defensive team. You know, they're probably going to give away a little bit of that defense for what they're going to do offensively. But I still think it's going to be a really good defensive team. That was a top 25 defense, I think, the last 2 years for Mississippi State from an efficiency standpoint. They're as good as anybody in the SEC and one of the best defenses in the country. And I still think it's going to be, the cornerstone of what Chris Jans does. And he's going to demand a lot of that out of his players. But he's probably going to have to, pull back a little bit on how much he demands on the defensive side because he's going to be giving more offensively. And he talked about it today, just like that bothers him a little bit that he's going to have to rely a little more on the offense this year. But I don't think he's going to sacrifice what he wants to do defensively. That's kind of the good thing for Chris Jans is I still think it's going to be a good defensive team, and that's going to be the principles But I like what they're going to do offensively. The guard play is going to be really good this year. The guys around Josh Hubbard, Kanye Clary, Riley Kugel coming in, those guys are going to be huge for Mississippi State because you're not relying on Josh Hubbard to pull all the weight for you anymore. You have guys around him that are going to be able to take some of that pressure off of him offensively, and he's excited about it. I asked him about that today, just having those people around him that are going to be able to help him not have to carry so much of that load. Now, there's some big question marks at center, and I asked Chris about that at the press conference, just about his thoughts on what they got there, Michael Nwaku and Jeremy Fomena coming over from Rhode Island. You have also Guy Chol that's coming over from the freshman class last year. There is no Tolu Smith here. And one of the things he mentions is that's been the talking point is they're not going to replace Tolu Smith. You can't replace a double-double machine like Tolu Smith, an all-SEC caliber player. You don't just replace that kind of guy. But what he wants is a group that's going to be able to get to the rim and rebound. They're going to defend on the other end. He's a little concerned about the rebounding part of it, but that's where getting in there and playing the games is going to come into play. And still not ready to count out Keyshawn Murphy playing the 5 some. I think that's a little bit of a step away what he does best. I think a stretch 4 is a really good position for him. And if you can get the 5 spot locked down by those transfer guys, I think you feel really good about it. I think Keyshawn Murphy's going to have a really good season. And Jans was really excited about him. He talked about just how much he's improved in the offseason leading up. So it should be a really exciting year. I'm excited to see the improvement from Cam Matthews, even beyond what he's done. He's been better and better each and every year. And I think this year's going to be his best. And, he's just kind of a quiet killer. He's a guy that right now not a lot of people are talking about him, but he's one of the more important players returning from last year in the SEC. So it's going to be an exciting year, folks. There's 250 tickets remaining as of the social media post by Mississippi State. I imagine that number is dwindling fast. They're getting close to selling out season tickets. This is the most pumped I've seen Mississippi State for a basketball season in a long, long time. Probably well over a decade at this point for Mississippi State fans. They're just excited. I think they're really pumped for the opportunity to go see a team that's not rebuilding like the football team and see a team that's a winner. I mean, back-to-back NCAA tournaments. You added some real pieces from the portal. You got a superstar in the making in Josh Hubbard. You have a really exciting player in Cam Matthews. It's going to be exciting. And I think the same for the women's team. They have a lot more question marks. But I like what Sam Purcell's doing. I'm expecting some really good news here for Sam Purcell in the form of a commitment coming up, hopefully in the next hour or so. So stay tuned for that. Go over to Maroon and White Daily and stay tuned for that. But there's just a lot of momentum behind Chris Jans and Sam Purcell right now, and I think that's really good for Mississippi State, really healthy for the environment there at Humphrey Coliseum. I think it's going to be an exciting year. As far as football is concerned, a lot of exciting things came last week in the Georgia ball game. Mississippi State falls 41-31 in that game, and it was a game that State in the second half was a play or two away from that really being interesting. Everything that they did throughout the second half kind of led to a big possession there. A holding penalty negated what looked like was going to be a scoring drive for Mississippi State. It's a one-possession game. If State doesn't have that questionable holding penalty on Jacoby Jackson, and if they score a touchdown or kick a field goal, whatever, they are in position to win on the road against number 5 Georgia. The defense is still a major issue for Mississippi State, but we saw that offense grow up before our eyes. Michael Van Buren threw for over 300 yards. He was your SEC Freshman of the Week. I thought that was a really impressive performance, and he's a guy that you look at moving forward. The more he grows, just the better things are for Mississippi State going into the offseason. You have a quarterback you can build around if you're Jeff Lebby. He's a guy that guys in the portal are going to be excited about. Guys in their high school and JUCO classes are going to be excited about. And Mississippi State fans should be excited about that too. So it was really just an impressive fight for Mississippi State. It wasn't perfect. You give up 600 yards of offense on defense. You give up 41 points. You didn't have a good first quarter of play if you're Michael Van Buren in that offense. But what you did have is a team fighting their butts off to try to win a football game at a place that no one in America thought that they could win or compete. And as 34-point underdogs, to go into that ball game and you're trailing by 17 points and you find – or actually they're trailed by 24 points. You come back and you make that a 10-point game and you actually had a chance to cut it to single digits. That's as impressive as it gets for a team that's now 1-5, struggling out of the gates. They have a lot of things to be excited about, and I think they're going to upset somebody before it's said and done this year. I think this is a team that has the potential to have more wins coming down the stretch. This is a much more manageable schedule down the stretch. Doesn't mean it's easy. They got a top 15 team in Texas A&M that I think is a playoff contender coming to town this weekend, an Arkansas team that's significantly better than we thought. Missouri's still a tough team. Ole Miss is still a team with a lot of talent that's tough. But Mississippi State is, I think, going to upset somebody. Will it be this weekend? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. The matchup is not favorable up front, but it's not going to be favorable up front in most of these ball games. So if Mississippi State stays the course, they fight the way that they do, they keep playing hard, I think that this team's going to find a way to get a win. And that's what they're looking for now, taking that next step. And you find a way to win a ball game and get the momentum in terms of wins now instead of just playing hard in a loss. So we'll see what happens. All right, so with that, I've rambled enough over these first 12 minutes. We're going to get to the talking part of things, the real talking part of things where you guys are involved in it. And I want to hear from you. I want to see your questions. I want to see your comments. Drop them in the box over there. We already have several of them, and we will get to it right now. Kobe Walker, he always leads us off. He's here right away every single week. Good to see you, Kobe. Good to hear from you. And the first thing he says is the soccer team is on a roll. That they are. The soccer team is a win away, I believe, from tying the school record in wins for a single season. I will make sure. They have been incredible. I'm not a soccer fan at all. I'm going to tell you 100% I've jumped on the bandwagon with this team. I did it last year, though, so it wasn't just this year. 12-1 start, 6-0 in SEC play. They've won 9 straight games, and this is a team that has given up 3 goals this entire season. And if you follow soccer, even I don't follow soccer much, but even I know that giving up 3 goals in 13 soccer matches is unbelievable. And it's not just the fact that they're not giving up goals, like teams are not scoring on them. They're not even getting shots off routinely. They're getting very few shots off in a game. That's how good this defense is. This is a team that, I don't say this lightly, they are national championship caliber. What they do defensively, and also, what they're doing on offense right now is impressive, as they had 5 goals the other night against Missouri in a 5-0 shutout in Starkville. It's just a really complete team. James Armstrong, I cannot say enough just how good of a job he's done. He's starting to move into Vic Schaefer territory and as far as impact at Mississippi State. I think the Bulldogs had trying to remember. I don't think they had made it to an NCAA tournament before he got here. If they did, it had just been one time. He went to the Sweet 16 last year. He's got a chance to legitimately win the SEC this year with a few matchups left. They got Ole Miss and Oxford on Friday. They got Kentucky next Thursday. Then they got Texas A&M the next Sunday. The Kentucky matchup is their last one at home. So if you're a State fan, you're going to want to get to that. Over 2,000 people have been to their last 2 matches, which is impressive to say the least. It's the top 2 attended events in soccer history at Mississippi State. So they've been incredible. They've already won more soccer games in SEC play in school history this year, and now they're trying to equal their win total for an entire season. with 13 wins coming up this week. We'll see if they're able to do it. Kobe, what's going wrong with Mississippi State recruiting in football, and how can they fix it? It's just simply that, this team is just struggling right now as far as, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That's where they're really struggling right now as far as keeping guys committed. They lost this week. Mario Nash decommitted and flipped to Florida State last week. That was an offensive guy, but still a huge piece for Mississippi State because you're trying to build with your high school class on the offensive line, and that's a huge miss there. And then you had yesterday Cavante Henry, who was just a huge part of Mississippi State's class in the JUCO ranks on the defensive line as an edge rusher. He was going to be huge for State next year. He flips to Alabama, and that was it's just bad luck for you there because when Alabama comes calling for some of these players, you just don't have a shot. And I know a lot of people think it's NIL related. It's just simply Alabama versus Mississippi State. And State's going to lose that battle more often than not, especially right now with where things are with this team. So, and then on top of that, Stephen Miller, who is a really promising safety prospect, he goes to USC. The one thing I'll say is on especially Stephen Miller, he wasn't coming to your games. He had a chance during his bye week a couple weeks ago to come to Mississippi State for a visit. He didn't do it. He didn't show up. And he goes across the country to USC. When that's happening, these players are not coming to your school. So I always say follow the visits. Follow the visits. If a guy's coming to your games every week, and we've seen that in the past with Travion Williams and Charles Cross, they were committed elsewhere. They were coming to Mississippi State every week. When that happens, you can kind of read the tea leaves. If a guy's not coming to your school and he's going other places, then you can rest assured you're probably not getting him. And that's kind of, that's always been my read on recruiting is you can usually tell, what a player's going to do by where they're showing up each and every week. And it was definitely present with Deuce Knight, the quarterback from George County. He was committed to Notre Dame. Every week he's at Auburn. That tells me he's going to end up at Auburn, and then eventually he commits to Auburn. So if guys aren't visiting you, then you can tell where that's going. But, I'm not overly concerned about Mississippi State moving forward. With this class, certainly it's going to be a struggle to keep all these guys committed when you're giving up 600 yards and 40 points defensively. There's just nothing to sell for Coleman Hutzler. He's a first-time coordinator. He looks like he's in over his head because this defense is really struggling. They're confused. They have ups and downs. I don't know if you're going to be able to move forward with this defensive staff if that's the case. If they aren't showing huge improvements down the stretch this year and they aren't closing on players in this recruiting class, I think you got to make a change, and you got to have a guy that comes in here that is a proven guy or a coordinator that's a rising star in the business. Those are guys that's going to sell. And right now they just don't have the guy that's able to put a product on the field that's going to sell. And it's the chicken and egg thing. And we've talked about it before about Mississippi State rebuilding. Jeff Lebby is able to sell his offense. He's got players in it right now too that are exciting players that are able to make his offense go. And while it might not be 100%, it might not be where he wants it to be, these are guys that can make the plays that can get you some exciting highlights and can put points on the board. The defense doesn't have those players right now. They don't have a coach with a track record that tells you it's going to be a certain way, like Jeff Lebby is as an offensive coordinator. So it's tough. It's really difficult for State to move forward that way. They've got to get some difference makers in there next year on the field and start moving forward. I don't think this is going to be a quick fix defensively. I think next year is going to be a struggle again, and then we'll see what they're able to do. But it's a concern, but it kind of just is what it is right now. I don't know if you can do anything about it, as we speak. Zachary Tucker, how much will State spend on the defense next season? It's going to be close to $10 million, I think. that's a crazy number throw out there. But if you want to put a defense out there that is able to move the needle for you, I think that's kind of what you got to spend. You're going to have to spend some mega money on this defense next year, not just to get impact guys, but to build depth. I mean, you're going to have to get guys behind the impact guys that are going to be able to help you next year. They're going to spend a lot of money, and they have a lot of money. They're preparing to come out of pocket for a lot of talent in the offseason. It needs to be the right guys, though. Hell State fan, constant turnover of coaching staffs for several years has more to do with recruiting issues, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that to an extent, because I think that you are in this position because of the turnover. You have the depth, the lack of depth, that is, and the lack of talent on defense because of that turnover. And you hired the guy that you hired because of that turnover. You weren't able to attract a big name defensive coordinator, or even a guy, evidently that's group of five or rising star type dude that I think that you can hire this next time around. So certainly doesn't help. Kobe, how big was it to get Jamarion Davis Fleming? Really big. I mean, I think this recruiting class is coming together for Chris Jans. You got some 4-star guys in there, some guys that can make an impact. He's a player that's going to help you, especially defensively, rim protector type, long arms, big physical kid. From an offensive standpoint, I think he's going to be able to help you some too, but definitely defensive and rebounded. He's going to be a big help for you for sure. Scrolling through here. Matt Pickney, what school were you repping on your hat in one of your last videos? Had an eagle with an E. That is Eupora. That's the walking eagle. Eupora created that logo probably 3 or 4 years ago. I saw it on a hat. The AD over there, somebody was wearing one of those, and I immediately was drawn to it. It reminded me a lot of the Walking Bully, and I think they took a little bit of that sentiment for that and created that logo. Great logo, one of my favorite hats. That is from the Eupora Eagles. So shout out to Eupora. Kobe Walker, how is Mississippi State baseball doing in fall ball? Haven't been able to get over there. I don't go to a lot of fall ball because I don't have the time to go over there, and I live 30 minutes away, so I don't make it over there much. But I talk to people about it for updates, things like that, and they're excited about kind of where they are. So I think that's going to. I think it'll be a good season for baseball. I'm not as down as a lot of people are. I think they're going to be able to stay on track a little bit, and there's certainly there's certainly more that you could have had for this next year. I mean, you would have loved to have had Dakota Jordan back and David Mershon and some of those pieces that were kind of there for like dangling for a little bit during the draft. But I like what some of the pieces that they've brought in, and I trust Justin Parker's going to be able to develop. I think that they're starting off pretty well in fall ball. They went over to UAB, I think, and won over there for fall ball scrimmage. So we'll see how it all transpires. Tom T says he's 55 and seen a lot of football and loves what he sees from Michael Van Buren. I agree. I think he's going to be really good, especially in this offense. There's a reason Jeff Lebby, recruited this kid, brought him in, and they have a great relationship. He's perfect for this offense. I believe that if Jeff Lebby likes a guy at quarterback, then rest assured he's going to be a good quarterback. He's hasn't given us any other reason to believe otherwise, and Van Buren looks like a guy that's built for this offense. I think he's going to be good. What's up, Cooge? DJ Cujo in the house. Going to be bringing some good vibes to Davis Wade Stadium on Saturday. If you aren't coming to the game on Saturday, if you have the means to come, please do, because I really believe that this team is close and they are they need your support. They don't need you to give up just yet or to wait around for them to get back into contention. This is a team that they need your support now, and it would be cool to see a big crowd on Saturday for them and have a good atmosphere there. I think that Cujo is going to be a big part of that. My guy. Can't wait to hear some DJ Cujo in the hump, too. It's going to be an exciting year. Joshua Wright, a couple of weeks ago, you said that you feel like Hutzler will be back in 2025. On TNL, you said that Hutzler shouldn't come back. Why has your opinion changed? Well, first I thought that Levy would stick with him. It wasn't so much an opinion that I think he should be back, and more so just like I felt like Levy would bring him back. With the rash of decommitments coming, which, by the way, I'm expecting Austin Howard, to a linebacker from Tennessee, to eventually flip. So, I mean, I don't think this is over. I think they're going to have some more decommitments, and they're going to have to fight off some folks for Xavion Hardy, Tony Mitchell, guys like that. Teams are just coming in and raiding State's defense right now because there's just not a lot of excitement on that side of the ball. And to me, I don't see another way out of this. I don't see how you're going to be able to fix this situation with the current defensive coordinator, the staff that you have. I think you've got to have a shakeup there on the defensive side of the ball to create a buzz in a positive way, because I just don't think that you're going to have a buzz created with your level of play. I don't think it's – I'm not going to say it's not possible, but it's hard to believe State being able to put a competent defense that's getting off the field routinely the rest of the way. They've really struggled to get stops, and the stops they've gotten have been turnovers, and that's great. But at some point, you got to be able to bear down and get off the field and force some punts, and they're not able to do that. And they're confused. Bryce Pollock was saying today, I think in interviews that I heard, that the defense was confused at times of the day, making the wrong calls, and maybe that's on the players some, but that's on coaching too. So, I just haven't been impressed. I haven't. The defense is going to be the worst defense as Mississippi State's fielded in school history. And if you have great coaching, that's almost impossible to do. If you're coaching football at a very, very high level, if you have everybody in the right position, all that stuff, it's almost impossible to have a historically bad defense. Even with the issues that State has from a personnel standpoint, at some point, the defense is in a good enough spot that they're able to make plays. So, I don't know what the overall answer is and what the result's going to be, but that's just my opinion. Is I feel like you need a change there to bring some kind of positive buzz into the offseason. Tom T, digging those lamps. Yeah, this is a great interior decorating by the Hyatt Place in Hoover. Zachary Tucker, does State need shaping back next year, and who do you think will hit the transfer portal? Well, I'm not going to dive into who all I think is going to hit the portal. I don't want to speculate on that, but I do think that it would be really good for Mississippi State to have Blake Shapen back. If he wants to come back, I'm taking him back with open arms, because first of all, you're not going to have to break the bank for him to return. And secondly, you have a guy that is going to be a good piece to have on this team, and you have a legit competition at quarterback. I think Van Buren is the guy. He's emerging as the guy, it appears. But for me, having a veteran like Blake Shapen back in the mix would be huge, and you don't have to go out there and try to find somebody else either. So it would be nice. The question is going to be, will Blake Shapen stay for another year? That's the big question. Eugene Caleb, we should get a DC from Montana Grizzlies or I guess that's North Dakota State. I think you can shoot for a little higher than that. I think there's some guys out there. I think this hire could be very reminiscent to what Dan Mullen was able to do when he, after the first year, State didn't really have the defense that they liked. Dan Mullen went out. He went and got Manny Diaz, who was a rising star at Middle Tennessee. This could be that Manny Diaz type hire. I would go out there and I would find a Group of 5 coordinator who's been really successful that is going to be able to generate a buzz for you. That's what I would go get. And I refuse to believe that you can't go do that. I refuse to believe that you can't go find a guy that's looking to make that jump up to the SEC. There's got to be guys out there willing to do that. It's that way every year. So that's what I would do. I would go out there. If you can't go get a sitting Power 5 guy or a bounce back guy, maybe that was a head coach that's been fired, you go get him as a coordinator. If you can't get that guy, I would go get some of the best Group of 5 coordinators out there, and I'd pay him some good money. It's hard for me to believe somebody's going to turn that down. Zachary, why is Ole Miss women's and men's basketball ranked in that state? The women, I can understand. That's second round team last year. They're returning a lot of players. They've been pretty consistent. I can understand that. The men, I do not understand the hype right now. Until proven otherwise, which Chris Beard could very well do. He's a really good coach. He's been really successful at several different schools now. And him being inside the top 25 at Ole Miss would not shock me. But putting them ahead of where Mississippi State is right now is what's surprising to me. Mississippi State was better last year. They've been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. Ole Miss really struggled down the stretch. I don't think they addressed their post positions very well. I don't think they're going to be that much better there at that position. They were bad there last year. It cost them a trip to postseason for sure, not having guys in the post that you could rely on. They have some pieces back that were good last year, and it is year 2. But I just don't think that they were as impressive. I don't think their roster is as impressive as Mississippi State's right now. And again, they're going to have – both schools are going to have a chance to play that out. But for Mississippi State, you've been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. You have a second-year sensation in Josh Hubbard, who was kind of taking college basketball by storm last year. You have Cam Matthews back, who's one of the top glue guys in college basketball, and you had a top 5 portal class. With a coach like Chris Jans, who routinely gets the NCAA tournament, he's going on a third straight NCAA tournament this year if things go as planned. It is really strange to me that they were not, they're not getting the buzz that they are. But the thing about it is the people that vote in the top 25, they know very little about college basketball as a whole. They look at brands, they look at coaches, they look at maybe players. They don't do a whole lot of research on this. And I think that's the biggest thing about it. When the season starts playing out, you'll see. I mean, you'll see who the teams are. They will emerge. They will come out of, the woodwork, whatever. But these preseason polls, they mean virtually nothing. At the end of the day, everybody's going to know who the best 25 teams are in college basketball by the middle of conference play. There will be no it won't be about the brand, and there will be, voting over hype and things like that. You'll know. So to me, it just doesn't bother me that much. I think it'll all play out, and you'll have a really good idea who the best teams are as the season progresses. That UPOR Walking Eagle is old. I went to school there back in the early mid-2000s. I don't think that particular logo is. That particular logo was created just a few years ago. I think they did have the Walking Eagle for sure, but I don't think it was that particular logo. I think that one's new. But I love a good walking mascot logo. Hail State fan talking about quarterback completion percentage against Mississippi State defense. Nearly every opposing QB is completing 70 to 80%. No pressure. Yeah, that comes from your front. They don't have anybody up front that's getting in the backfield, that's getting penetration. And that used to be a thing at Mississippi State. You had interior linemen, you had edge rushers that were really disrupting plays. And now quarterbacks are able to have time, and you're sending 3 linemen, you're sending 4 guys, nobody's getting back there, and then your defensive backs can't cover for more than 4 or 5 seconds. It's just hard to do. So it's just a trickle-down effect. I think all of Mississippi State's issues, to me, start on the defensive line. That's why it was just it made no sense to me that they went after the guys that they did on the defensive line, and they didn't address that need. That was something that should have been addressed after, middle of the season last year. You should be addressing that in high school and portal recruiting. State was beat badly in recruiting in state for defensive linemen. They got Terrence Hibbler, but that's about it. So the recruiting just has not been good, and the depth's not good up front, and the talent's not good enough. And it trickles down to the entire defense. The entire defense is affected by it. Big Mix, Shield Wood from Houston would be tops on my list for DC. Yeah, that's kind of a guy I've been looking at too. He's been a big topic of conversation over the last few weeks. Would be a great hire. I don't think that would be an issue at all if Mississippi State was able to bring him into the fold. You need a guy like that, though, for sure. Zachary, what's wrong with Calvin Dinkins? I don't know, man. I think it was I think he was hurt more than everybody realized, and just hasn't been able to get back in there. That's what it appears to be. And at this point, you're almost to the point of redshirting him. There's no reason, if he misses another couple of games, there's really no reason to play him this year. But I don't know. All right. Any more questions? Drop them in. I'll take a couple of more if you got them. All right, we'll stop right there. It's been a good talk. Once again, coverage over at Maroon and White Daily. We've had a busy day today: basketball, football, basketball recruiting, football recruiting. I mean, it's just been loaded. And again, 50% off deal. Sign up. Join 50 is the promo code, and you can go sign up for On 3 today. Maroon and White Daily. Go check us out. Sign up. We would appreciate it. I would appreciate you subscribing to this channel as well for all these Talkin Dawgs reaction videos, media availabilities. We'll have women's basketball media availabilities on YouTube tomorrow. We got the men on there today. You can go check those out. And then, Saturday we'll have a reaction video after the game against Texas A&M. But hope you guys can make it Saturday to the Texas A&M game. The 2014 team is being honored in that game. Dan Mullen's supposed to be there. Dak Prescott's supposed to be there, and all of those great players from that amazing team. Should be a fun day. It would be great to have a big atmosphere there for that and for the team. Try to get this team over the hump. Try to find their first SEC win in the season. We'll see if they're able to pull it off. But other than that, I appreciate you guys. That's my coverage for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow on our site for some women's basketball SEC Media Days coverage. Then we'll have coverage leading up to the game for football this week as well. All right, guys, have a great rest of the week, and we'll catch you down the road.